What is up, everyone? JD here. Hope you're doing well today. Got 5 interesting knives to take a look at. Let's get into it. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the first one. We're taking a look at the Civivi Sentinel Strike 2, and the main difference here between the 2 and the 1 is going to be the blade shape. You got a drop point with a compound ground blade versus the Wharncliffe blade shape that was on there previously. On the initial drop, there's only 2 versions available, the blacked out version and then the I think raw aluminum and greenback spacer, if I can remember right. Nitro V blade steel, beautiful drop point, extremely thin, slicey hollow grind, and even though it is a flat grind out on the tip for added strength, it's still relatively thin cutting geometry, and you got a nice swedge here to reduce the resistance when gliding through any sort of long cuts. Very comfortable ergonomically too. I really like this hand-filling grip here. You do have a glass breaker on the back and a reversible pocket clip that's hanging off of the back, but it is relatively low profile, so that doesn't bother me too much. Also, for anyone out there that likes the lanyards, you do have that lanyard hole there, and it really doesn't impact the pocket clip because it is mounted onto the back. Very interesting design with this button lock. It is a clamshell back strap here that is made out of G10, and they did a really good job. There's a little bit of gap here and here on the curves, but other than that, it fits relatively snug and pretty seamless. You can see a little bit of a line there, obviously, because it is a frag on the clamshell back spacer, but no frag on the aluminum scales themselves. As I mentioned, very comfortable. It does have this cutout here, which gives it a nice sharpening choil and a nice choke up point to choke up and do some detailed work. Either way, if you needed to grip onto this tightly, I do feel a little bit of the blade's edge there when I choke up to the second knuckle, but if you needed to, you could just move back, or you could go over top of that flipper tab if you felt like you needed to get a little bit closer to the blade's edge. But I think moving back here and being able to kind of control it, it does work really well, but most of the time, because it's such a thin geometry, I can just slice right through it. Detent on this one is really good. Civivi continues to be one of the more impressive button lock makers out there as far as making the detent feel snappy and crisp. There's no lackadaisy or laziness about the deployment on this one. Very easy to operate. Has not moved up and down. Now, when I did the initial review on this one, there was some oil and a little bit of debris on the lock itself, so it did fail 2 of the 3 whacks. After I took it apart, cleaned it, and reassembled it, I did 4, 2 in the middle and 2 on the end, and it passed all of those. So I really just think it was a little bit of the oil that was affecting the lockup on this one. The other thing too, as you wear this in and get rid of the coating that's on the blade, the lock will move over a little bit more and be more secure. Now, of course, don't baton with your folder, guys. That's not really what it's for. I just do that to demonstrate an accidental hitting of the knife. You know, if you're not being careful with it and you turn and hit into something, or if you're cutting in a space where you don't have a lot of room and you hit it, that would be what I was emulating, but you really should not baton with the knife. But that is the Sentinel Strike 2. I actually rather prefer this one over the one. I like the blade shape. I think it's super useful. Again, it does have this point here where the compound ground comes back the way that they sharpened it at the factory, but as I sharpen or strop this, I'm just going straight through. I'm just going to have a traditional drop point edge there, and you'll just be able to tell a difference in the edge angle because it does have flat versus hollow grind. All right, let's get into the next one. All right, the next one is the budget offering of the Kizer Militaul. They have several variants, guys. It starts as low as $60. Actually, might be $50 for the Nitro V version, and I think this one might be 60. If it isn't, the Nitro V is 60, and then this one would be 69, so call it $70. I did elect to pick up the Nitro, the 154 CM version. This is blasted, and it does have smooth G10 with the wood inlays. I've never really handled a knife with a wood scale or inlay on the scale from Kizer, so I just wanted to kind of check it out, and it's rather stunning in person. I know wood's not for everyone, but they do have another 154 version out there, and I think if it's not G10 on G10, it's micarta in G10. and I think that one's the coated blade anyway, so I much prefer the uncoated for 154 cm because I don't really have to worry about corrosion, and I want the higher toughness on it, or the higher HRC, I should say, for the edge retention on 154 cm. I like to get that 154 cm edge retention up as high as possible. It doesn't have a reversible clip. Being that it lays on the top of the scale, I think the holes being here available for that clip really wouldn't have made a huge difference to the aesthetics. I would say, especially on a budget knife, definitely put that on there to make it more lefty friendly. Now I know that the liner lock is right hand accessible, but at least people that are left-handed can carry it in the left pocket. And I think for the most part, people are okay kind of operating it this way, but very satisfying to operate, great detent, very well tuned, slightly contoured scale, so very nice ergonomically, and it is a very light guillotine, but it does have enough control to where you can stop it once you disengage the lock if you like to let it drop, and it's very satisfying for that front flipper. I did have someone say that they had a hard time with the front flipper because the detent on their frame lock version was tuned too strongly. I think the other thing I see that people do is, like trying to deploy it here, they try to deploy the front flipper from way back here on the palm, and you can do that, but I've found for front flippers it's easier for me to kind of use the top of my palm and then have my fingers here to be able to hold that knife and easily flick it. I find that I have an easier time with it. But regardless of the version, this is one that translated very nicely from the premium version of the Militaw into the sub $100 budget friendly version, and I really think the black with the wood looks really good. Only thing that I'm going to change out on this is I am going to go ahead and get the Civivi clip, so it will, the mill titanium clip, it will look like the more premium version of the Militaw, but I think on the wood here, this pocket clip, it moves around a little bit. It's not a ton, but I think it will look nicer. It will look nicer aesthetically. And I think when you go to operate that front flipper and you're kind of gripping onto the knife, it won't slide around on you as much. It'll have a little bit more strength there. But that is the more affordable version of the Militaw. Let's get into the next one. All right, the next one I've already had in for review, and you've probably already seen the review of my personal purchase of this particular one, but this is the Concept Hinterland. This is a more premium knife coming in S35VN blade steel titanium thumb stud. You heard correctly. And it is titanium with a carbon fiber overlay, but they have different versions out there as far as the onlays, and they have uncoated versions with the blade steel as well, and titanium pocket clip. Very comfortable ergonomically. Contoured scales here really make it fill out the hand nicely, and it's got good thickness to it. It's not too thin to where it still feels a little dainty in the hand. So this has got a very nice, what I would call everyday carry vibe to it. If it handles well, feels good in the hand. The thumb ramp works really well. One complaint that I do have when I'm pulling it out of the pocket, it is a little sharp here. I haven't decided if I'm going to knock that down and just re-anodize it myself, but what happens is, and I just knocked myself in the knuckle, is it'll catch on the pants pocket if you pull it like at an angle instead of straight up, and it'll kind of start to deploy the knife. So that's something to keep in mind. Granted, it is in tight over here and away from everything, but when I pull out, it kind of catches on there, and it could be they designed it to do that intentionally, but I don't really like that. I did try to put bug out studs on here because the screw just backs out from inside of the thumb ramp. Those didn't fit, so I haven't had a chance to check to see if anything else would work, but I think for me, since the fuller does seem to work a bit better on this one for me, I might just go ahead and try to knock this down because I really do like this thumb ramp. One thing that's different to note about Concept, they use race washers, and in the disassembly video I did show that off where they're pocketed and the washer kind of just hangs out in the pocket and only rolls against the blade itself. But I feel like they've done a really good job on tuning the action on these. While it does feel a little bit, I don't know the right word to describe here, but it does have good detent on it, but on the close, for whatever reason, I don't know if that's because the race washers slow it down or if it's because this one's the coated blade version, but it doesn't feel as crisp when it drops in there. It just sounds like a thud. But when you go to deploy it, no issues there. It's very satisfying. It's a very good detent. It's not the strongest I've ever felt, but very good. Would like to see them just maybe do their black wash a little bit further along, make it look a little bit more worn. But I guess the cool thing about it not being so deep is as you use this knife and as it sees more use, that'll probably wear in it on its own, and you'll be able to put that touch on it yourself, so it'll get a nice patina to it. The pocket clip on here too, by the way, these pocket clips that Concept's been doing with these mill pocket clips are excellent. In and out of the pocket nicely, great retention on them. It doesn't snag the pants on the way out, so I really like that a lot. Easy recommendation, a little bit more premium, but still under $200, I believe, for this one. That is the Concept Hinterland. I think this is probably their best looking pocket knife to me personally. I know that is preference, but I think this is one of their best looking models, and it's one that I was so impressed by in the overview when I checked out the review sample that I had to go out and get my own. I just absolutely like this one a ton. All right, let's get on to the next one, guys. Got another Concept here. This one, I liked the way it looked aesthetically on the website. Very nice. They have a couple of different options. I just went for the raw titanium with the milling and the raindrop carbon fiber inlay. I really like the way that this one looks. You got a subtle drop point out on the end here. It's kind of straight, and then it drops on the end. S35EN, they do a really nice job on their static wash. Got a little bit of a reflection to it with the stoning on it. Looks really good. S35EN, if I didn't mention that a minute ago, this is a Denjin design frame locked knife. I even like the fact that they didn't do any of the milling on this side of the scale because it makes it go in and out of the pocket really nicely, and then they did the milling to match from this side on the pocket clip. I think that looks really, really cool and gives it a unique aesthetic. This one here, a little bit tighter in the pivot. I'm still trying to break it in. The Hinterland, I've carried a little bit more, so it's a little bit better broken in, but the detent is very well tuned. This one here, because it isn't coated, automatically already feels a little bit more crisp on that break and the closing sound. Doesn't sound quite as thuddy, but again, it's still breaking in. Very good for a flipper / front flipper knife. I'm able to use all of the means of deployment on this one, and it's very satisfying. Would I've liked thumb studs? Sure, but I think this just kind of keeps the look really clean. Also, race washers, as per usual for all Concepts, they got racetracks here for the washers to kind of hang out in, so that it's really only riding or spinning with resistance against the blade itself. And part of the reason for that is so that you can lock up the pivot tighter to prevent any side to side and up and down, and this one's been very solid. Also 3/4 length back spacer as opposed to the standoffs that you just saw on that Hinterland. This is a 4-finger grip, but I am just starting to hang off of the back there, so a little tight just because you're sharing some room with that flipper tab right there. Good jimping on the back here. Great EDC, great geometry on both of these. If I didn't mention it, they're very slicey, and they seem to do a good job on their S35EN. It has noticeably good performing edge retention on it. They seem tough. I haven't had either of these chip in daily use or anything like that. And just a special note, the Hinterland uses a T10. I found that out the hard way when I tried to loosen it with my T8. I scratched it a little bit and took off a little bit on the coating on the inside, and this one is a T8. So T10 Hinterland, T8 on the Havron. I don't know if I said the name. Did I say the name when I pulled this one out? If I didn't, my apologies. All right, let's kick it on. Let's get on to the last one, guys. All right, the last one I want to check out is from a brand that's probably pretty new to most of you. A lot of you probably have seen it because they've been on a lot of channels here lately. I do have the Urban Grip. This is from Fair Monster Knives. Rumor has it they do OE work for Bestech, and I think it really shows. The M390 on here has performed extremely well. It has a machine satin finish with a very nice blade geometry, good access to the lock bar, outstanding action. Now, I did throw skiffs on here, but even before the skiffs, it was butter smooth out of the box. The skiffs just have more bearings, more solid in the pivot, and a little less resistance on the action itself. And very fun to use and fidget with. This one would be easily able to be recommended even if you like to kind of hold it on the inside of the palm and flip it. To me, it is okay to use it that way. You got to kind of figure out to land out on the tip here. If you're going to do it like tucked up like this, I again recommend moving out using the top of the palm. It's just so easy to manipulate the knife that way. One thing I will say is a downside on this, these relief cuts, even though it doesn't affect going in and out of the pocket clip when the knife is in the closed position, if you twist at all, sometimes it'll catch and you'll just feel it graze. I wouldn't say that it catches, it kind of grazes across these because it's sharp. I would just say for Faramonster to knock that down probably, and that would be better. Also, the anodizing for whatever reason on the titanium on the pocket clip doesn't really match the rest of the body. I haven't decided yet if I want to move it to that blurple color that I like so much. But I've been enjoying it otherwise. Very cool knife, a little bit more premium because it's slightly over the $200 price point, but I do have a discount code, JD for EDC, plus the link downstairs. Down in the description will take you over to that website and let them know that I sent you, and then JD for EDC, I think saves you either 10 or 20%. I think it's 20%, but I'll have it listed out in the description below for that one. But all of these I have affiliate with. But just because I have an affiliate, if you've seen this channel, you guys know I don't always recommend every knife from every company. It's just I respect the build quality on a lot of these knives from these companies. I think they do a really good job, and I haven't found too much from these. I know Faramonster is a little bit new, but I haven't found too much from these companies that discourage me from working with them. I want to work with them because I feel like I can stand behind a lot of their products. Anyway, those are the 5. It is the, again, Faramonster Urban Grip will be linked down below. It is going to be the Havorn from Concept. I think that one is really sweet. My favorite Concept to date is going to be that Hinterland. Really enjoyed that one a bunch when I checked it out, so I had to pick up my own. Also, the Kizer Militao, whether you're getting the premium or the budget version. I do prefer the full size to the mini though. The mini is just a little too small for me personally. But if you have medium or small hands, it's going to be a really nice model for you to get that mini. And then I love the updated Sentinel Strike 2. I think it is really good looking, and again, Civivi has one of the button locks that I pretty much can stand behind because anyone that I've encountered has performed really well, hadn't had to worry about it failing or anything like that. All these are going to be linked at various retailers. You can go directly to Faramonster for the Urban Grip or the Glide Strike or any of theirs, Concept and or a couple other places. I'll have these linked, and then the same thing, Kizer, I have direct links, Civivi direct links, or you can check out one of the retailers that do carry these models, and it helps when you use the link, but that's up to you. I just like to let you guys know because you've been so great about using them and it's helped the channel so much. Why not just continue to let you know they're down there or remind you. Thanks for hanging out to this point of the video. Seriously guys, if you enjoyed, hit that like button on the way out. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. I'm out of here. Have a fantastic week. Catch you next time. Peace.